The Dodgers outfield situation just got a whole lot more interesting. An MLB insider just proposed a 3-team blockbuster that would land Los Angeles exactly what they need: a versatile, productive outfielder who won't break the bank. And the best part? In this trade actually makes sense for everyone involved, even if it looks a little lopsided at first glance. Anthony Castrovintz from MLB.com dropped an article on Thanksgiving titled 7 Ridiculous Trades We'd Like to See, and buried in there is a Dodgers proposal that's getting serious attention. He calls it a mini Mookie Betts trade, which immediately tells you the Red Sox are involved. And just like the original Mookie trade, this one would reshape multiple rosters heading into next season. Here's how it breaks down. The Dodgers would get Jarren Duran from the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox wouldn't get a Dodgers player directly. Instead, they'd receive right-hander Joe Ryan from the Minnesota Twins. And the Twins? They'd be the ones loading up on prospects. Minnesota would get Joshua DePaula, the Dodgers' number 2 prospect, Jackson Ferris, their number 6 prospect, and Kelvin Bautista, their number 18 prospect. Boston would also send Marcus Phillips, their 11th-ranked pitching prospect, to Minnesota as part of the package. Now, before we go any further, let's be honest about something. At first glance, the Dodgers are giving up more than what they're getting back. 3 legitimate prospects for Jarren Duran, while Boston gives up Duran and a mid-level prospect to land a quality starter in Joe Ryan. On paper, it looks like the Red Sox are getting the better end of this deal. But does that automatically make it a bad trade for Los Angeles? Absolutely not. Let's talk about why Jarren Duran makes so much sense for the Dodgers. First off, he's a California kid, grew up in Southern California, played at Long Beach State. This isn't just some guy coming from across the country. He's coming home. Players perform differently when they're comfortable, when they're playing in front of family and friends, when they understand the market and the pressure. Duran fits that profile perfectly. But beyond the feel-good hometown angle, Duran brings exactly what the Dodgers need: versatility. He can play center field at a Gold Glove level. He played left field last year, and while the numbers weren't quite as impressive, part of that is the challenge of playing in Fenway with that monster left field wall. Put him in Dodger Stadium, and you're talking about a completely different defensive profile. He's got speed, 24 stolen bases last season. He's got power. He was the All-Star Game most valuable player last year in Texas, taking Hunter Green deep for the game-winning home run. That's not a fluke. That's a legitimately talented player showing out on the biggest stage. Now, yes, his numbers dipped slightly from his breakout 2024 season. His batting average went down a bit. His on-base percentage wasn't quite as high. His strikeout rate went up. But context matters. In 2023, he was injured and only played part of the season. In 2024, he exploded. In 2025, he was still really productive, just not at that peak level. The power-speed combination is still there. The defensive versatility is still there, and most importantly, the ceiling is still there. Looking at his StatCast page, Duran shows up well in several key areas. His sprint speed is elite. His arm strength is above average. His bat speed metrics are excellent. Yeah, there's some blue on that page, areas where he's just average or slightly below. But the tools that matter most for what the Dodgers need are all in the red, and here's the crucial part that people overlook. You're not asking Duran to be your number 1 outfielder. You're not asking him to carry the offense. You're asking him to be a versatile piece who can play multiple positions, provide speed at the top or bottom of the lineup, and give you solid defense wherever you need it. Think about how the Dodgers would deploy him. You've got Andy Pages, who had a solid regular season but struggled badly in the postseason. You've got Alex Verdugo, who they acquired at the deadline. Duran gives you a left-handed bat to platoon with the right-handed hitters. You can move him around the outfield depending on matchups. If you want to give Teoscar Hernandez a day off, Duran slides in. If you want to move someone to DH, Duran covers in the outfield. And if Andy Pages needs a mental reset after a rough stretch, you've got Duran ready to step in without the lineup suffering. The contract situation also works in the Dodgers' favor. Duran just signed a relatively team-friendly deal to avoid arbitration with Boston. You're not taking on some massive long-term commitment here. This is a cost-controlled player who fits your competitive window perfectly. Compare that to what it would cost to sign someone like Cody Bellinger long-term or trade for Kyle Tucker knowing you'd have to extend him. Duran gives you 90% of the production at a fraction of the cost and commitment. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Are 3 prospects too much to give up? In a vacuum, maybe. Josue de Paula is a legitimate pitching prospect with a high ceiling. Jackson Ferris has shown real promise. Kelvin Bautista has tools. But here's what people forget about prospects. Most of them don't pan out. Even highly ranked prospects flame out more often than they become stars. The Dodgers have one of the deepest farm systems in baseball. They can afford to trade from that depth, especially when you're getting a proven major league player in return. And think about it from Boston's perspective. Why would they move Duran? Because they're getting Joe Ryan, a legitimate mid-rotation starter who gives them rotation stability. The Red Sox have been desperately trying to add pitching. They just traded for Garrett Crochet. They've been linked to every available starter on the market. Getting Joe Ryan without giving up their top prospects while moving an outfielder from a position of depth makes total sense for them. Yeah, Duran is good, but if they view him as their 4th outfielder behind Jarren Duran, Wilyer Abreu, Ceddanne Rafaela, and potentially someone they sign in free agency, then moving him for rotation help is smart roster construction. Minnesota's motivation is the easiest to understand. They're getting 3 legitimate prospects for a starting pitcher who's under team control, but will get expensive soon. The Twins operate with budget constraints. They develop pitching well. Taking a package of young, cost-controlled talent for a guy who'll need a big contract extension soon is exactly the kind of move they make repeatedly. Would I try to tweak this trade if I'm the Dodgers? Absolutely. I'd push back and see if Boston would include another prospect, or maybe you keep one of your 3 guys. Perhaps Bautista stays in the system and you only send the top 2. But even as constructed, this trade makes sense. You're getting a proven major leaguer who fills multiple needs, fits your competitive window, and doesn't require a massive financial commitment beyond what you're already planning. The other factor nobody's talking about: how does Duran's game translate to Dodger Stadium? Fenway Park is a notoriously quirky ballpark. The dimensions are weird. The wall in left creates strange plays. The right field is short. Dodger Stadium is a pitcher's park with symmetrical dimensions and lots of foul territory. Duran's speed plays even better in that park. His defense becomes more valuable when you're playing in a bigger outfield. His power might take a slight hit, but his overall game actually might improve in Los Angeles. Look at the Dodgers championship window. They just won the World Series. They want to repeat. The outfield was a weakness in the postseason. Andy Pages struggled badly. They didn't have great options off the bench. Injuries exposed their lack of depth. Adding Duran addresses all of that. He gives you a starting caliber outfielder who can also function as your 4th outfielder when everyone's healthy. That's exactly the kind of depth championship teams need. And let's not forget, the Dodgers player development staff has a track record of getting more out of players than their previous organizations. Look at what they did with Max Muncy. Look at Chris Taylor. Look at countless relievers and role players who became key contributors. Duran has already shown he can be an all-star caliber player. Put him in an organization that knows how to maximize talent in his home state, playing in a park that suits his skill set, and there's legitimate upside here beyond just replicating his Boston production. The timing works too. The Dodgers clearly aren't going after Kyle Tucker. That price is too high and requires too much long-term commitment. Cody Bellinger is still an option, but comes with his own complications. The free agent outfield market is thin. Trent Grisham accepted his qualifying offer, with the Yankees taking another option off the board. The Dodgers need to do something in the outfield, and a trade might be the cleanest path forward. This trade gives them a legitimate solution without completely gutting the farm system or committing 9 figures to a free agent. So, would I do this trade? Yes, without hesitation. You're giving up prospects who might become good major leaguers in 3 or 4 years for a guy who's already proven he can produce at a high level and fills multiple needs immediately. The Dodgers are in win-now mode. They just proved they can win championships. You make this trade, you run it back with an improved outfield, and you give yourself a legitimate shot at back-to-back titles. That's worth 3 prospects every single time.